Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Bible study. Tonight's going to be a good night, like every night we have Bible study, as well as on Shabbat and any other festival that we are going to or been into. It's always been awesome. We got some coming up in the near future. We're still going to be prepared to go through where we are now. Remember, this is the second month, starts tonight at sundown. The Babylonian name is Ayar. It's the second month. It's the month that the Israelites were going through the desert. So it starts, we can say now. So it's officially started. So, knowing that, we're going to just go over a few things and talk about that. Before I do that, I want to talk about a few things that are happening. Like Dad would always say, current news. Everybody's talking about the colleges and what's going on at the college campuses, and you're watching it on news if you watch the news. And what I've been noticing is that they're focusing on the wrong things. That's because that's what they want to do. They want you to focus on that because there's a distraction. What they're not focusing on is the heroes that are on some of these campuses. The ones that rescued that big American flag. Unsung heroes. Yet there was a fund raised for them because of what they did. So that is awesome. And the ones who blocked the door to try to stop the terrorists from coming in, the infiltrators coming into the building, those were heroes too. The innocent people that were there defending themselves just because they're Jewish, they're heroes as well. Because they stood for who they were. And we're seeing now, Robert Kraft pulled out money from the college. He says, when I was going to that college, they gave me an opportunity. It's not the same college anymore. And I can't support what they're doing now. So he pulled his money out. He's not the only one. There's a few others that pulled the money out. And as well as other colleges, that's happening as well. So people are making a statement. Whether or not the news is reporting that, people are making a statement. Then you go to certain campuses where they say, no, this is unacceptable because you're hindering somebody else's free speech by saying this is free speech, yet you won't. It says, no, they shut it down, handcuffed them, jailed them, charged them with some serious charges. Before, they wouldn't be able to do that. Some of these places, they're arresting them, charging them with felons. And what they're finding out is, they say, over 70% and maybe even 80% of them don't even go to the colleges. And the ones that are, got expelled. And they should, rightfully so. You destroy property, you threaten people's lives, absolutely. There's civil laws that are in effect that you're supposed to be reinforcing them on the campuses. So we don't have these things happening again. How time flies where people forget what's happened in our past. That's why they want to do away with history, so you don't remember the past, so you repeat the past. Yet there's good and there's bad going on there. We want to focus on the good because there's people out there that are standing up. They're absolutely standing up for the right cause and for the right reasons. And they're saying, not here, not on my watch. And I think that is awesome, and that should be, commended. When people are doing good, it should be brought up. Instead of focusing what they're doing, absolutely wrong. The other people, it's absolutely wrong. And it's being allowed at some colleges. It's wrong. And it's like people say, well, they have a right to say, and it's in the wrong form. It says they're paid agitators. They all admit it. They're all being interviewed. They don't even know why they're there. I need to be more informed about what I'm protesting. Okay. Yet, that just goes to show you what's going on. You call them paid protesters. You go and protest something. You don't have no idea what you're protesting. Yet, there's some who know what they're protesting, yet it's all lies because they grew up in it. Yeah, we're having that happen all across the country, Canada as well, and in, where was that? Denmark. I think it was Denmark, where they used bulldozers to clear it up. I was impressed with that. I was like, good, we're not going to put up with this. I said, not here. So I was like, and people are speaking out and of who's involved, which you never heard before, which is awesome because now it's being revealed where the money's coming from. They always say, follow the money. So I think that's very eye-opening to see where the money's coming. We already knew. Most people, in our camps know where the money's coming from. It's just now it's becoming available for others to see what's really happening and who's supporting it. You got, people with lots of money that want to do bad things. They say one thing, yet they do a whole totally different thing. And just looking, they had a little article about a super yacht, and I was like, wow, that's a big yacht. Who owns that? Zuckerberg. The one who spends lots of money interfering with the elections. He's got a big super yacht. He also talks about being green. They listed what it takes to run that thing. Amazing, the crew that has to run that and what they use for fuel. Bezos for Amazon, another one, same thing. He's got this big thing. He took a bridge where he had the yacht made, paid for it to be removed, the top portion of it, so he can pull his yacht through it, and then put it back. There's lots of money out there. Money, and it needs to be used for the right thing. So we need to be calling the money, and we do that on Sabbath when we dedicate the money. We say that it's going to the rightful place where it belongs. We spend most of our finances for like Haiti and Israel, too worthy, and to hear that testimony of the students with the flag for Israel, praying for Israel, supporting Israel, I think that's awesome. Amazing. That's just touches you just to see that. I mean, just to see they're giving back. Like you were saying, they're giving back. And like the students at the colleges, they're giving back what's been given to them. They're not putting up with the stuff. So it's money is out there, and money needs to be called into its rightful place. And it's not for evil. So on that note, this is officially the second month it's called Kodesh Ayar, and it's considered the month anticipating Revelation. And it's really interesting because it's also considered the second Passover, which pretty neat, gives you another opportunity, so to speak, if you want to look at it prophetically. Excuse me. And it lasts 29 days. It's the month that it means glow and blossom, suggesting growing season in the early spring. And 1 Kings 6:1 mentions that. It also means the word ziv may be related to the word zav, meaning a flow or a gush of fluid. Like most Hebrew months, the name was later changed. We all know that. For the Babylonian captivity, they changed the name to the Babylonian name, because if you look at the scriptures, it's always first month, second month, and so on. First day, second day, and Shabbat. All of those are always numbers. There was never a name, it was numbers. So, like I said, it was used to allow to celebrate a second Passover. And then it falls between the great month of redemption and the great month of revelation, and therefore primarily commemorated as a month of passage, and rightfully so, because that's the month that they started traveling through the desert. So it was the rite of passage, the month of passage, excuse me, leading up to the awesome revelation that was given at Mount Sinai, at Sinai. Later, the agricultural aspect of the passage was enshrined in the terms of Shepharat HaOmah, or the counting of sheaves. When the sheaf barley was waved before the altar each day for 49 days, until the arrival of the holiday of Shavuot. And that's in Leviticus 23:15-16. And then they talk about a lot of other things in there, because usually when you go look up these things, they have they take it in different aspects of it. They talk about mysticism, they talk about rabbinical, they talk about all kinds of things. Like, some of the stuff you just got to just squeeze in and focus on what the month is really about. So what is this month about? You know, it's the growing, it's the planting, it's the blossoming of the season, you know. And it's a heightened spiritual status wherein different levels of tumah and impurity is purged from the soul by implying the Israelites' journey from Egypt to Sinai represents a spiritual transformation, which that's what it was supposed to do. So it just gives you an idea of what happened in this month and what this month is. It just started, like I said, 29 days, and we just move along. And it's also a month of provision. It's a month of healing. It's a lot of these things are in there. It's also the month of, because it's a fresh water, symbolizing it's not a stagnant water, it's fresh coming into our midst. And it's also, it's the time frame where the newly completed Mishkan, the tabernacle, was in their midst in Exodus 40:17. And it also was the first census was taken during that time frame as well, the counting of the heads as they called it. And then it was also when they did that, that's when they took the tribes and they formed them in their perspective. So you have the 3, 3, 3, and 3. So that's how they ended up portioning everybody by their tribes. It also represents the month that the Shekinah glory began leading the tribes to the promised land. It was prophetic, of course. And it's also during this time that King Solomon began the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, 1 Kings 6:1. And there were some, I want to mention a few things. There's special dates on this month. The 4th is the Israeli Memorial Day. The 5th day is Israeli Independence Day. And then the 14th is the Second Chance Passover. And the 18th is the 33rd day of the counting of Omar. The 25th is the 40th day of the counting of Omar. And then the 28th is Jerusalem Day. Now, these are all holidays and events that happen on this month. We just need to keep it fresh in our mind why we are here, what the months are for, and what are we looking at during this month. It's a month of provision, it's a month of healing. That's a lot of I kept seeing was the healing. A lot of healing kept coming forth out of what I was looking up. So I was interested in that because I was having a conversation with somebody just within the week about how the days of old, as they would say, where signs and wonders would follow those who believe. And we're talking about, I'm not seeing the signs and wonders. Or they said, I'm wondering where the signs and... And you look around and it's like, well, there's some truth to that. We're not seeing it to what we read about, what's in the scriptures. You know, we've heard about it. We've experienced a little bit in the sanctuary. You know, we had healing services there. Yet, on the grand scale of when Yeshua was around, do we see that? Has it happened? I'm starting to hear reports about stuff happening in California and a few other places where people are being baptized by the thousands. But you don't see that on the news. They would probably do something like, oh, they're polluting the ocean. Yet, it's happening. So it's like, why all these distractions? Because they don't want you to see what's really happening behind the scenes. That's the truth. It's like, okay, oh, another incident happened, another, like I said, for a while I've been talking about there's going to be lots and lots of distractions. And we just need to keep our eyes open and attentive so that we don't get trapped by the distractions. I can give lots of examples recently, yet I don't want to focus on the hindrance of it. It's just to be aware and keep our ears and eyes open of what he's showing us, what we need to be doing, especially in these times. So I mean, if you look at your workplace, I'm sure there's all kinds of distractions going on. Wherever you're going, you see distractions. I was in the store, I haven't seen it in a while. I'm starting to see it more frequently now as the children acting very unruly and disrespectful to the parents. They've always done that, yet I see it ramping up again. So I was like, no, that's a distraction. It's like, I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm looking for the person who needs to hear what I have to say. That needs that touch for today. And I was talking to somebody, one of the clients' house I went to, and that's one of the things we talked about. It was during that whole pandemic, and I mentioned it before, and it's that this was missing. The touch. The close communication, face-to-face. Face-to-face. And they said, you're right. I never thought of it like that. You're absolutely right. I says, I go into people's houses, and the first thing they would say is, I'm so glad that you're here, and then, and go. And I let them, because they had nobody to talk to. And then we were talking about, well, you can't really touch. Some people want to be touched. You don't have to go and, just touch them on the shoulder, shake their hand, simple things like that. It's amazing. One individual, they wanted a hug. So I said, give you a hug. Nothing wrong with that. It made the individual feel better. And those are healings. That was an emotional healing. So during the time frame of a lot of these distractions, let's not focus on distractions, because there's many. I mean, there's just so many of them. It gets to the point. It's how do you want to put it? The enemy's overplayed his hand, and it's so obvious. It's just like, well, they don't care no more. It was pretty interesting that the meeting we had today at work, the big guy who's in charge of a big portion of the company, had made some very good, what do you want to call it, observations. And he had put it out there, and I liked the way he put it out there. He was very careful not to put it out there for misunderstanding. And because somebody asked a question and says, well, you're going to go do all of these things, and then you're going to run out, and you're not going to have the finances to do what you need to do. And he made a comment, and I almost jumped out and threw scripture at it. He says, well, I don't see the trend of poor people going down. And I says, the poor will always be with you, and that's scriptural. It's what you do with them that makes the difference. So as you'll have them, yes. Yet do you need to do something? Absolutely. Yet he knew that there doesn't seem a downsize to the trend of people being, he called it, in a homeless position, in financial hardship positions and stuff like that. That's what he considers, poor. So he says, at that level, I don't see it changing. He says, yet if it does, we'll be here and we'll make the assessments at that point, and we will change. Wise man. Instead of just saying, we're just going to continue to do what we do always. And he says, if we get to that point, yet he said, you don't see it. He says, we're not going to just stick to it. We're going to make the changes we need to make and move on. Because we will survive as a whole. That's a very good answer. And the person who threw it out to try to throw him for a loop, and it didn't work. Yet, being aware of all the distractions and just keeping ourselves undistracted by being focused with him and his word. One of the things I started looking into today, and it was because he was showing me in the word. It's the word, the word, the word, the word, the word. That's the foundation. You have to have the word. If you don't have the word, you really don't have anything. You have no foundation. So he started showing me, he says, go read through Psalm 119. I said, that's a fairly lengthy one. So I went and I was reading it. And I didn't want to read it to miss his points. because there was always little tidbits out of all the points. They would talk about, always about the Torah, always the Torah, you know, I want to keep it here and I want to meditate on it. I want to always have it before my eyes. I want to hear it all the time. And then he would go throw in there a line there and we'd talk about his enemies or something. And then he'd go right back, you know, with your word, you'll keep me, da 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 da. Yeah, he didn't say the distraction, he held on to it. He acknowledged it was there. You know, like Dad would say, Christian Science, what did he say? He said, Christian Science will say it's not there. It's there. It needs to be put in its right place. So what I noticed was he would always go with the Torah. Start out with the Torah. I love the Torah. The Torah is my life. It's this, it's that, it's everything. And I'm going and going and going and going and going. And it's like every one. It was like paragraphs. Every paragraph had the same thing. All the way through the whole 100 and, hold on, I'll tell you. I think there was like 176 chapters, or not chapters, verses. And it's like, and I read them all. And I was like, after I got done reading it, I was all excited. And then he showed me, Psalm 103. And like Psalm 119, it also has, it starts out with Aleph, and it does all the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet. And then it starts out, how blessed are those whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. Now, what I like to do is when I look at these words, because during translation, they use words that don't always describe it the best. You know, who walk. You know, walk is to go or to come. And here the law, it's Torah. Where if you say Torah, you get the sense of the flavor of it. If you say the law, you get a different, like Dad would say, if I say a black dog, then you look and you say, oh, you visualize a black dog. Yet if you just say dog, it's generalized. You say Torah, it's focused. You just say law, it's generalized. It gives a whole different look at it. And then you go and Lord. You got to look up a lot of these words. And this whole thing, the majority of Lord is Yud He Vav He. And it all the way through it. So that's the name of the Creator. Yet you go and it goes, how blessed are those who observe His testimonies, who seek Him with all their hearts. Also do no unrighteousness. They walk in His ways. They have ordained your precepts that we can keep them diligently. That your ways be established to keep your statutes. Then I shall not be ashamed. When I look upon your commandments, and you go again, and the commandments here is not Torah. It's mitzvah. You look at your mitzvah. I shall give thanks to you with uprightness of heart. When I learn your righteous judgments, I shall keep your statutes. Do not forget me utterly. How can a young man keep himself pure? This is one of the favorite ones. By keeping it according to your word. With all my heart I have sought you. Do not let me wander from your commandments. The word I have treasured in my heart, that I may not sin against you. Blessed are you, Lord. Teach me your statutes. With my lips I have told of all the ordinances of your mouth. I have rejoiced in the way of your testimonies as much as in all riches. I will meditate on your precepts and regard your ways. I shall delight in your statutes. I shall not forget your word. Deal bountifully with me, your servant, that I may live and keep your word. Open my eyes that I may behold wonderful things from your law. I'm a stranger in the earth. Do not hide your commandments from me. My soul is crushed with longing after your ordinances at all times. You rebuke the arrogant, the cursed, and wander from those who wander from your commandments. Take away a reproach and contempt from me. For I observe your testimonies, even though princes sit and talk against me. Your servant meditates on your statutes. Your testimonies also are my delight. They are my counselors. All the way, all the way, all the way, all the way. You go and again. It's the same thing. It's the Word always in front of. It's a relationship with the Word. And I'm reading this and I'm just like getting refreshed. And it's like, that's what this month is about. It's a refreshing, you know. And by doing that, what happens? I was talking with a young man, and his whole thing is he knows that he can get angry, and he's learning how to redirect the anger in the right way. And I started talking to him, and I was saying, you know, I notice a difference. Now, before you were talking with the rabbis, you were talking with, and he calls them rabbis because these are people who are Messianic Jews who are actually teaching him the Word. So I said, when you're talking with them, you're a totally different person than you are right now. I says, I can tell because your language is different. You're not swearing. And it's a big difference because he can get on a tangent, and yet when he's with the rabbis, I can tell. Because he listens to them, and he goes and digs it up and looks at it. He goes and finds it. Yes, he says, they say some real tough things. And I'm like, he says, yet it's in the Word. It's there. I can't say no. It's there. And I'm like, there you go. So that's your answer. And he says, I know. And he says, I know I should be spending more time reading the Word and talking to the rabbis. That's when he's talking with the rabbis, they have like a Bible study, and they do a Zoom type of a thing, and people can ask questions and stuff like that. So, yeah, he's asking questions. And when he learns things, he comes and he says, did you know? Did you know? And I can tell he's all excited about it. And I'm like, tell me. He said, no, you have to tell me. I said, tell me. And he would tell me. Yet when I start hearing a word slide in there that's cursing, and I know that he's kind of slid away from that. So I had a conversation with him. I said, look, if I didn't care about you, I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't say it at all. I would just let you be yourself and say, see you later. It's because I care about you. That's why I do it. And he said, and he was appreciative. He says, you're all right in my book. I said, I'm not doing it to be all right. I'm doing it for you. Because it's all about you, you know. You can change the way you do things by doing that, and you're happier, and that's the big deal right there. If you can be happier and do your job and you're better at it, there you are. The Word works. You can't deny it. You see the difference. It produces, you know. And he gets frustrated even with the Word, and it's a good thing because he can dig in it and see it. All right, this is the truth. So, why are people out there that go to these places, they don't see it? Because they're not digging. They're not asking the questions. They're not looking. You know, if you do what they say, you know, I'm going to hide your Word in my heart and not just accept the doctrine, you know, because we're all guilty of the doctrine. I mean, every once in a while, I'll hear something that long ago I believed. Yet when I found the scriptures for it, it changed. So once I found the scriptures, it changed. That's the difference. I told them I'm a seeker of truth, and when I find truth, apply it. And then make it establish, and boom, you move on. You did a foundation in that area. Took the Word, applied it, solidified it, now move on. You know it's going to be tested. He always, you know, the Word is always being tested in you. What was the Word He gave you? It's always going to be tested. He told you to do something. It's going to be tested. You have an inclination to do something. He's going to test you with that inclination He gave you. Go do that. Well, okay, yes, I'm going to go do that. And then after a while, it's like, gee, I hear the heavens are clanging like brass because I didn't do what I was told. then you see the difference. And I remember having a conversation with Dad one time, and I shared this before, and we said, why does not the next generation grab hold of what the previous generation had? It's because they never owned it. You have to own it yourself. You can't do what they did. You have to do what He's told you to do. That's why they're always visiting on things that happened before. And I'm not saying it's not bad to go back and see, like, revivals and things that happened, healings and stuff. What happened and what was the catalyst for it? What caused it to happen? Everything has a cause and effect. Always there's people who were praying, fasting and praying for that day, being led how to pray and what to pray, to declare it. And they decreed it, and it became about. And then what happened is during that time frame, the hearts changed. It became pliable, just like clay. So now the potter is being formed and his heart softened. So now what I notice is at that point in time, people change because they're open to the truth. So you see that. So now I look at that because what's the guy's name he does revival radio. He's on Flashpoint 2. Gene Bailey. You ever watch some of his old shows on some of those? He's got some pretty awesome ones in there. And it's pretty neat because he breaks it down like that. He says, this is how it started. Somebody was praying, then this happened, and here's the results of it. You're hearing everybody talking about signs and wonders will follow those who believe. And that's true, it will, because the scripture says so. And then people are looking around and saying, is it because nobody's believing? Or is it because people are not believing what they're reading? Do they have an understanding of what they're reading? That's one of the things when I'm digging in and finding out the word and finding out from people who understand the language, the Hebrew language, which is a big difference because what I've been noticing is a lot of the word that's being translated, there's no word in Hebrew to translate it. So they have to use a word the best to describe it. Like if you go to, like Dad would say, if you went to the Arctic and you were talking to the Eskimos, how would you tell them about sheep? Valid point. But you'd be talking about seals and all of those, and because they gather them up like on the same thing, herd them up like that, they would understand that. Yet, it's not a sheep or a goat, so would they understand it? I was like, that's what we're getting into with the word. When we start digging in, we start seeing what it really means. And we get a better understanding of how to apply it. Oh, that's what it says, like Lord. And it's like, we just think Lord is just Master, Lord. No. And that, most of them, the 3/4 of Lord, is used as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Creator's name. So if you have that in there, and then before at one time, it was Elohim. And then it comes to a point where it says, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, your Elohim. Yet they have meanings, and that's where we missed it. Because being Western-minded and not understanding the Eastern mindset, we miss a lot of things. So that's why going to Israel or learning from those who are in Israel about the things of the Jewish nation, we get a better understanding of it. It's like talking to somebody about Bethlehem. And I mentioned to him what Bethlehem was in historic times, and they said, I did not know that. Really? And then I explained Passover to him. And then I explained, where did Yeshua come from? And they're like, wow. I never looked at it like that. I said, yes, that's why we need to look at things. What is it? It's like when I come across a place in the Bible, and it says the name of the place, I'm looking it up. I'm finding location, its history. I want to know about it and what it is, because it paints a picture. Because it has dual meanings. It has the meaning of the city or whatever it is. And I found one for Shechem that is going to be he's going to deal with Shechem. And I was like, ooh, I got to keep that one to the side. I think that was in Psalm 103, so I'm going to keep that one there because that's one of the places that needs to be cleaned out. And there's a word for it. There's going to be. So with the word, keeping the word in front of you at all times, it's like there's teachings out there, and even though you got to be careful because there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of stuff. It's just like you got to filter. Yet you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like Dad says, I grab the good stuff and I'm going to keep that. The rest of it's got to go because it's not scripturally sound. I mean, most people come from a background where the doctrines have changed since the beginning. Say, do you believe the same way you believed when you first? No. Good example is for when we started doing the whole thing about Shabbat. That was a major shift for everybody. We shifted from Sunday, boom, right to Sabbath. And at that point, a line was drawn in the sand. Those who heard the word and it was applied to it, did it. Then there was those who it went against their grain because they didn't want to line up with the word. So they ended up going and then they moved on to their own thing. Yet, what happened? Here we are, we're still here doing Shabbat. We're still honoring Shabbat. Yet, in Shabbat, we're learning more about Shabbat. We're learning more about, like today, the beginning of the month, the Rosh Chodesh of the second month. We're learning more about that. We're learning more about the festivals. Every time we get into the festival, there's more that we learn. And it's always because it's an ascendancy. It's a cycle. You know, like Bereshit, the beginning of cycles. So that was the beginning of a cycle of 7 days. Yet if you go in Bereshit, Genesis says, and what they translate it to, if you go into that, you'll see cycles within cycles. You know, you have the cycle of the 7 days, the months, and the years, the 7 years. After 7 years, you got to give the land rest. And then you have the year of Jubilee. That's a cycle as well. So there are cycles within cycles. Yet if you start looking into them, you get a better understanding of them. Because when we started talking about the Rosh Chodesh, it was just ahead of the month. It's a little silver. It's the beginning of the month. And that was cool. And that's what we did. Well, then it's like, well, there's more to it than that. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of 1 month. It's like, okay, in that month, there's cycles. And what do we do with these cycles? We have to learn what they are and how we apply them to our daily lives. The daily Shabbat, we applied that on every Shabbat. Then the special Shabbats, we applied them too. And I just took time off because of the Shabbats, and those 2 days were very refreshing. Besides having the regular Shabbat, I was like, I need more of those. Yet we will have them. Yet it wasn't a day to just, I got a day off from work, I'm going to go do this, and this. No, it was a rest from everything. It was a rest. Just sit and you just meditate the word, think on what he's doing in your life and what he's speaking to you at that point in time. And especially in these times, for what he's called us to do. Everyone's been called to do something. We all are put here for a reason. And it's not to just sit around in what they call pew warmers. No, we have Abba's business to attend to. And everyone, there's no one exempt from it. And that's the whole thing. Nobody's exempt. I can't pull out an exempt card and say I'm exempt. No, we're all in on this. We're all in on it. There's nobody that's sitting on the sidelines. We're not spectators. We're in the midst of it. That's no better way to describe it. Mom would say we're at the head of the comment. Absolutely. Yet, do you know what the head of the comment means? That means you're first thing they see. So that means a whole lot. So if you're the first thing they see, that means they're going to see everything. So I was like, well, let's clean up and move on. because we're going to be seeing things and being participating in things that's life-changing, because it was meant to be life-changing. And that's what we're here for, to change lives, one at a time. It's like, inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard it's hard. Yet we're not here to conquer the world, we're here to conquer for the kingdom. That was the challenge of the disciples, the followers of the way, was they thought he was going to do away with the Roman Empire. And that's not what he was there for. He says, and he told them, he says, my kingdom's not of this world. It's not part of this. And they didn't understand. They would think he's going to overthrow the government. He says, no, I have my own kingdom to tend to, and you guys are part of it. So take your bootstraps, strap them up real tight, let's go. And they did. Yet it's understanding what the call is. To follow the way, which is to follow Yeshua, what's that mean? It means a lot. If you look at those who followed him, you had the immediate, the three, the 1, the 2, the 3, then you had the rest of them, then you had the 70, the 500, and then the multitudes. Yet the closer you get, the more you understand. Because if you look at John, the way he talked, opposed to some of the others, you see that he was a little bit more intimate with the Messiah. And that's my prayer for everyone here, that your intimacy with the Messiah will be close to the point where that's the way you are. It's like, if you've seen me, you've seen him. Where I go, it's like, you're different. You're absolutely right. I aim to be different because I'm representing him. I represent the maker of heaven and earth, and I'm doing it the best I can, and I'm learning as I go. Are we perfect? No. Yet, if we're pliable, teachable, like Dad used to always say, if you have a teachable spirit, we can teach you some things. Some things are taught, some things are caught. If you have a teachable spirit, you'll catch it. You'll absolutely catch it. You'll understand it. And that's where being pliable in here, keeping the word fresh daily, where it'll apply the heart, where you'll be able to be, to that point where you're teachable. It's like having a conversation with somebody at work about cleaning, and because they have cleaning crews, so they would say, these people, you tell them what to do, how to do it, and they can't do it. I said, to your expectations, correct? And I said, what do you mean by that? I said, your standards are not their standards. There's a difference. Once you understand their standards, then you can address things differently. Right. That's true. So they don't understand your standard, so you have to explain your standard to them. Because if you have people working, because they have people that, from certain countries that see things a little different as far as cleaning. And it's nothing against them, personally, because that's the way they learn to clean. Like a good example would be in Haiti. Now, the way they clean is not the same way we clean. Like for in here, if you watch them when they sweep, they push the broom the opposite way, and it's funny to watch because instead of going close to you, they're going with not the flat broom, just a whisk broom, and they're doing it that way. And I just watched that. I thought that was interesting. Just like when we were in Haiti and they were cutting with the wood and the saw was going in the opposite direction. And I'm like, works, cut straight and everything like that. Different from the way I would do it, because that's not the way I learned. So I was like, is it better? For them it is, because that's the way you learn. The goal is, if you're able to cut the same way you cut the same way we cut, then you're fine. Like in the schools now they have a way, you have to learn this math this way. You have to get the answers by doing this, this, and this. Otherwise you failed. So, well, that doesn't make sense. So if they get the answer, then you're fine. I don't care how you got the answer, unless you cheated. That's a whole different ballpark. As long as you did it honestly and you figured it out and you got the answer, that's the whole thing. You got the answer. You didn't go, you have to do this, this, and this. And I'm looking at some of the problems they have, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That's actually backwards and takes longer. So it's like, why not do it the way we used to do it? It makes sense. Yet what they're doing now, it's just like bizarre. Yeah. If they learn it that way, whatever they learn, doesn't matter how they learn it, as long as they learn it and they get the answer, honestly. You know, the honest answer. It's like with math, if you get the answer and it's the right answer, when you come in to take a test, you're getting the answer. If they want to see how you got the answer, then you show them how you got the answer. If it shows that you got the answer that way, solve it and you got the answer, then you're fine. That's not the way they look at it. Same with the word. Some people say you have to do the word this way. Well, no. How does the word work for you? It only works one way. By faith. And that only happens by hearing the word, spending time with the word, speaking it, hearing it, looking at it, getting it in your senses. That's how it works. Say, no, you got to do, like salvation prayer. There's 4. That's not what the scriptures say. Right? Because I had that conversation with someone. I said, if that's the salvation prayer, how about everybody before the book of Romans was written? Was there any salvation for them? Because that's where most of it comes from, is the book of Romans. Call it the Romans Road. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? That happened in this time. Well, what about everything up to that time frame? Does that count? So then you look at the Word. You go to what they call the New Testament. Well, what is it? It's letters written, correct? And most of it is saying what? What the Tanakh and the Torah say. Unfortunately, it's been translated from Greek to English and not Hebrew to English. And that was another conversation we had. So, no, it's Greek. It was all written in Greek. I'm like, they were all Jewish scholars. Why would they be writing to the Jews in Greek? They would be writing in their own language. Right? I would think so. Would they write to other groups in other languages? I'm sure they knew other languages. Yet if they're talking to their own people, they're going to use their own language. If I'm in this group here, I'm not going to be talking Spanish. I mean, there may be a few people that would understand it. Yeah, I'd be speaking in our native tongue so that we would understand. The same with the Word. Absolutely the same with the Word. We can take that Word and we can apply it and watch it happen. Yeah, it's all about the Word. If you can put it in your heart, it's like get that soil fertilized and plowed and remove all the junk from it, get that prime soil going, and then the right seed, right in there, produces a harvest. Because you have scripture for it. In Bereshit it says, as long as these 4 seasons exist, seed time and harvest will be. As long as the sun comes up and the sun comes down, and we have all the seasons, there will be harvest time. So the Word does not lie. You just got to believe what it says and apply it and watch it produce. And if we're not seeing things being produced, we need to ask, where am I missing it? If I'm seeing an area that's not producing, and I know I'm working it, if I'm in a garden, I'm working that garden, and nothing's being produced, I want to know why. Is it because there's not enough fertilizer? Or maybe I didn't put the seed in the ground? Well, there's a reason for it not to produce. So I want to know why it's not producing. Once I find out why it's not producing, I'm going to go and fix that. Yeah, how am I going to find out how to fix it if I don't spend time in the owner's manual on how to garden, so to speak, if you want? So if I'm in the garden, I want to be able to do what I need to be able to do. I need to have the right seeds. I need to have the right soil. I need to have the right atmosphere for it. And then I need to tend to it. Because at some point, there's going to be tares coming up through and you got to pluck them out. Some of them you can do right away. Some of them you have to wait. Like he says, you got to wait till they grow up and then yank them and burn them. Yep, the majority of them, Like I had to identify some plants because there's some plants that look the same. And the leaves are so close. Yet there's ways to tell the difference between the two. Yet if you can't tell the difference between the two and you put together, you may have a little challenge with the growing process. One may choke out the other one. So, we just need to grab a hold of the Word and watch it produce. The Word does not lie. It works. If it's not working, that means we need to work it. True? Amen? Amen. Shalom, shalom. Until next time, be blessed.